Hello, you malty, manical, mutant malt messes, and thank you to Matthew Barnable for that malt mention. I'm Ralphie, here in the bothy with Ralphie Review 932. Now, just in case you've never been to my channel before, I review whisky and other quality spirits, but primarily Scotch whisky, for a very simple reason. It's what's most widely available to me where I am in the British Isles. I live in a small island in the Irish Sea, so I'm rather handy for getting access to Scotch whisky, English whisky, Welsh whisky, and of course Irish whisky. But my heart really belongs to Scotland. You can probably tell by the accent, and I'm very fortunate in that I'm in a generation, we are in a generation, right, where there has been a renaissance, a global renaissance, not only in the production and availability of good quality whiskies around the world, and I would say arguably to a higher standard than in the past, although you'll notice I'm saying arguably because I do think that the quality of flavour from yields in older varieties of grain used for making whiskies, or sugarcane used for making rum, was better in the old days when fewer industrial chemicals were used in the growing of crops. But I'm not going to go down that road today. I'll leave that as a review for some other day. I'm going to focus this review on a specific single malt from Deanston Distillery. It's 18 years old. It's natural colour, sun chill filtered. Here is the bottle. There we go. So you can take a wee screen grab of it. And it's bottled at 46.3%. Okay. And it says non-chill filtered at the corner of the label and matured and aged, in first fill bourbon casks. Now, by first fill, the specific meaning of that is that the casks have held bourbon and then been transported from the USA to Europe, to Scotland, and then they have either just been filled as is, or the casks have been reassembled from flat pack, or alternatively they have been stored for a short while, then they're filled after they've been rinsed, washed and prepared. But essentially when the whisky goes into the cask in Scotland, or probably new make spirit, the previous content of that cask was bourbon. That is the specific meaning of first fill. So it's the first time whisky has been in the cask. Now I'm looking in the back of the label for where it says natural colour, but I'm not seeing it. Oh, naughty. Anyway, it's 18 years old. And I have to say, if you're buying in the UK, it's actually very reasonably priced for 18-year-old whiskies, because here in 2022, along with inflation, the price of older whiskies is most certainly going up. It started with 30-year-old and 40-year-old whisky. Prices rocketed over the last few years, and then gradually, as your whiskies got younger, older whiskies, say 25-year-old to 21-year-old, those prices went up significantly from what they were. And then we're down to 18-year-old whiskies. Prices are significantly increasing. With some brands like Dalmore, the price they're asking is simply outrageous. Same goes for Macallan. And I wouldn't dream of buying them. And then you have certain 18-year-old whiskies somewhere in the middle. They're over £100, £150, £180, even £200. like Special Edition Laphroaig's, for example, off the top of my head, or Highland Park, another good example. But you still have the presence of some brands like Arran 18, Deanston 18, which are Glencadam 18, another good recommended example. Another good one's Anok, by the way. Anok 18, another good example. You have a few single malts, no more than about a dozen actually, which are quite accessibly priced for their age. And when you get to 18 years old, you know what to expect from the age statement. This is the value of age statements. They provide an amazing amount of information, which is why they're so useful and give you so much point of reference than non-age statement whiskies. Which is why I don't really review non-age statement whiskies, although there are some good options out there. Arran, for example, quarter cask, very good option, for example. But with 18-year-old whisky, you're going beyond the standard maturation period of 10 to 12 years. And the whisky is continuing in the cask, as a result of which it is drawing more out the cask. There is more interactive oxidization due to the process of maturation, and you get simply a more complex whisky. Now, when you first nose it and first taste the whisky, you might not really get it. You might not be fully aware of it. Nosing this, it's rounded, mellow, quite barley sugar, unpeated. And I can tell this is older than 12 years. It's not as zesty, as fresh, as fruit-driven, as spirit-driven. But it's not old enough that casks are dominating with lots of oak or lots of colour, depending on the type of cask. So it's a nice age where if you've got experience with younger whiskies and you want to kind of get something that's still affordable, that's older, to get your point of reference, this is a really good illustrative example of that. And I'm now going to actually review it for you and explain clearly why this is such a good whisky for its age. Nose. Just to confirm, this whisky's now been in the glass for about half an hour. So I don't just pour out a glass from the bottle instantly and then dive into it, because older whiskies need more time, like a fine wine. They need time in the glass to settle down and open up, because what they do in their development is happening more slowly. For a simple reason, malt mates, there's more to happen. That's why it happens more slowly. There's more complex flavour dynamics locked into the whisky, because it's had more time in the cask. And this affects not just the flavour, but the form, and it affects the sensation range. On the nose, neat, very honeyed, slightly sweet, unpeated, barley sugar, sultana, some I would call it summer blossom honey, if you want a specific type of honey, vanilla, and some soft, slightly resinous, tannic, quality oak casks. So the oak is definitely impacting when you first smell the whisky in the glass. You really notice it. On the first taste, you could drink that without adding any water to it. Fresh, crispy, zesty, fresh fruit, light fruit, mild apricot, a little bit of peach, fresh, slightly overripe peach, grapes, some melon. So you've got this fresh fruit, summer fresh fruit thing going on. And being a Highland region whisky, it starts to dry off in the finish to something that's crisp and slightly tannic, but still flavoursome with some lemon oil, some grapefruit rind, and a little bit of rich ginger. Now I'm going to add some water to this. Proviso though. I know I generally add a lot of water to whisky to cut it down and get access to the flavour. But in this instance, experience of doing my research with this bottle tells me not to add too much water. The amount of water you add to different whiskies varies a lot. To younger whiskies that are more spirit intense and less cask influence, you can get away with adding more water. You will have a simpler experience and it will be dominated by the signature coming from the malt whisky coming from that specific distillery. It's what's called the signature. And that'll be the main event. It can be a very good event, particularly if the whisky's been maturing in smaller casks, quarter casks, rundlets or kilderkins, those sort of casks. Because of the surface to area ratio, you basically get quicker maturation. And with that quicker maturation, you get a sense of age, but also in tandem and intermeshed with the freshness of the signature of the stills. So I've added a drop of water, back to the nose. A little bit of slightly green pineapple coming through now. So it changes this dynamic a little bit with the fresh fruit range. It suppresses the oak influence on the nose, but that will come back over time. So if you were to finish this glass after adding water in about 15 minutes, right, you will get a shorthand compressed experience. If you leave this whisky in the glass longer, it will become a lot more exciting and a lot more dynamic because you will notice some flavour shifts and changes as the dynamics in the glass unravel and unwind due to the oxidization, the addition of water to weaken the strength of the alcohol, to hold on to this chemical bonds with the natural flavour components. And by the way, there's a lot of flavour components, a lot going on. You see, the thing is, the longer a whisky is aged in the cask, the more cask interaction over time. Bear in mind, there's about 600 different chemicals in white oak wood, and many of them contribute, if not to flavour, then they contribute to the sensation range: sweet, salt, sour, bitter and savoury. And they also they contribute to the amount of tannins into the whisky. So an older whisky will simply give you more because there's simply more chemicals from the wood in particular into the glass. And also the tempering of the spirit over a longer period of time leads to greater complexity, and with the complexity you get subtleties, and you cannot understand these subtleties and access them if you're going to knock it back in 15 minutes and move on to your next dram, as so many people seem to do at whisky festivals. Waggy finger. Yeah, I know you've been to whisky festivals. If you're going to a whisky festival, take longer time with older whiskies. It's worth the wait. Taste. Crisp, clean, beautiful, fresh, dynamic arrival. Gingery, sherbety, fresh fruit, tangy. See, the tangy, that only comes with time in the wood, because tangy is a fusion of sensations, the fusion of citrus and sour. So when you get more sensation within the flavour, it introduces the sensation complexities. Tangy is one, sherbety is another, umami is another, And just savoury complex. That's another good one. Some of them are kind of hard to define, but you'll notice it. That's really just the rival I was talking about. The development, it grows in the development. The sensations really kick in. Dry, savoury fruit note. Right in the roof of the mouth. It's beautiful. And it sustains itself very well. Why? Because of the quality of the casks. There isn't any contaminants in the cask from poor storage or poor quality wood to diminish the calibre of development. And with the calibre of development, you're talking about the flavours in the development and also the sensation range and complexity within the development. If you don't have development, you never have finish. And the finish is light, crisp, tannic, gingery, lemony, grapefruit, delicious. There's a little bit of herbaceous creeps in. A little bit of rosemary and sage. Sage as a herb is sort of herbaceous savoury. So you're getting that. Now, I don't want this video going on too long, but I'm going to tell you something about this whisky, which makes it a great whisky, a great single malt, and at the moment a great value single malt. And that is when you put the glass down and leave it for 15 minutes, which isn't such a long time, can drink something else, some Glenfiddich 12-year-old, some Glenlivet, some Glenmorangie. Nothing peated though, because it would kill the flavours you're getting from this and destroy the complexity. But what will happen is the citrus aspect, the citrus sensation coming in from the fruit will actually amplify. So the flavour will actually change in the glass after about 25 to 30 minutes. And if you leave this glass longer, after about 45 minutes, almost towards an hour, if you still get whisky in that glass, with a drop of water, you'll start to get savoury notes. So the flavour, the actual flavour from taste will change systematically, gradually, and continually over an hour. That is the sign of a seriously good whisky. A seriously good whisky is made and matured in good casks, which create the opportunity for enhanced complexity. And this has it. Deanston has it. And just before I come to my malt mark, and apart from the fact that it's obviously self-evident to you malt mates, I'm highly recommending this single malt to you. Go out and buy it. I highly recommend it. It's seriously good stuff. And in Britain at the moment, in the UK, it's rather good value for an 18-year-old. Put it this way, I'm just going to make an admission to you here. It's not often that I buy a whisky, review it, and then go out and buy more bottles of it. But I've bought 3 more bottles of this. I've put them in the stash, and I will open them in years to come. Because whisky of this quality will only ever go up in price. Period. And in fact, if you come back for Ralphie Review 932 Extras, which is coming along after this video, I shall be talking about the signs of a good distillery versus the signs of a bad distillery. And the signs are to be found in the product. And in the product, it is of course time sensitive. You need to be aware of your timing with this to understand how it works. And I'm going to explain all that in the next Ralphie review. Meanwhile, let's get a mark for this. It's an integrity malt. It doesn't say it's natural colour, but see that? That's pretty much natural colour. From my experience, for what it's worth. Comfortably, 90 out of 100. That is a malt mark. It's an integrity malt mark. I really do recommend this whisky. Go and find Maltmates. You will not be disappointed. I'm Ralphie, over and out.